All right. Let's get started on Dianne Feinstein, who uh ended her her unfortunately too short life earlier this morning at the age of 90.
Feinstein of California has died. She was 90 years old. CNN's Lauren Fox is here with more. Lauren, what do we know at this point?
Yeah, we are still getting more information, Phil, but what we know right now is that Senator Dianne Feinstein, the longest serving woman in the U.S. Senate, she has passed away. Obviously, we are still getting details and gathering information about her passing, how it occurred. We've known for a long time that Senator Feinstein has struggled with several health issues, but she has continued to serve in her capacity both as a senator and on the Senate Judiciary.
Yeah, she didn't have to. She was like almost a billionaire. Her husband is like stupid rich. Okay. She didn't have to be serving the end of her life, at the end of her life, being wheeled around. That did not have to happen. Dianne Feinstein is not like the singular charismatic force that is the only person that you can elect to that position in a state that's like a purple state or whatever. Dianne Feinstein is a California senator. Okay? Suck my fucking dick, everybody. If you have any kind of issue with the things I'm about to say about the selfishness and the audacity of these fucking cretins who have made insane amounts of money over their entirely too long careers as they became more hardened in their perspectives and stood in the face of progress. Okay? If you have any issues with any of that, if you look at her and you go, oh, that's a frail old lady, you're going to shit on her? How dare you? All I will tell you is suck my dick, okay? She did not have your best interests at heart. She was selfish. She was a piece of shit for staying in that position for far too long. And there are plenty of examples of her demonstrating how big of a piece of shit she was. But this last piece of the puzzle is the absolute worst moment because it's exactly like Ruth Bader Ginsburg, because not only was she a piece of shit who should not have run for re-election in a fucking deep blue state like California, but also she was a piece of shit that was placed on the Judiciary Committee in the Senate. So she was a piece of shit with a big role to play, you know, where all the federal court appointments are coming through. And now, just like Ruth Bader Ginsburg, who also was a piece of fucking garbage, okay, in the exact same ways, as a matter of fact, in the exact same stupid ass, like, oh, look, this is actually girl boss feminism that we're doing by like allowing, you know, by holding on to our position of power, even though it will harm the overwhelming majority of women in the United States of America and their future. They refused to quit, and we fucked around and we found out. Here's Ethan's take on it, which is really good. Dianne Feinstein should have stepped aside for the younger generation 2 decades ago. Instead, she pathetically claimed to power and obstructed progress. What happened to planting trees that you will never sit under? Fuck her and fuck RBG and fuck any other geriatric piece of shit that puts their own ego, self-interest, and desperate hold on power above progress. Pass the baton and I'll honor your legacy. Until then, just retire and get the hell out of the way. Straight up. Oh, this is a great one, too. This is a person who worked with Dianne Feinstein. Wait, oh, no. There was another one I saw. Someone was her staffer, and they talked about her experience, okay? They talked about, like, their experience as a staffer under Feinstein, and they're like, you know, it was really terrifying, and we were talking behind closed doors about how, like, she wasn't all there. You know what I mean? Like, she wasn't entirely there. And then it ends with, this was in 2010. Yeah, this. Fondly remembering my tenure as an unpaid intern in Dianne Feinstein's office when we were like, look, I'm not a doctor, but this person doesn't seem like she's in super great shape to be 100, to be one of the 100 U.S. senators. Anyway, this was in 2010. It's so fucking insane. What's the criticism of RBG? Identical to Dianne Feinstein. She did not step down when she had like cancer 100 times, okay? Ruth Bader Ginsburg was supposed to step down under the Obama presidency, okay? Under the Obama administration. There were calls for her to step down. And literally at the time, every single dumb bitch out there said, you are not a girl boss. Ruth Bader Ginsburg is. She's the best fucking girl boss you've ever seen. How dare you fucking tell her to step down? She can have ass cancer 100 more times and we don't care. Okay? And then what happened? She officiated a maskless wedding after getting like every type of cancer known to man. She officiated a fucking maskless wedding in the middle of COVID and then died like immediately after. So, you know, like 2 weeks after her chemo. Yeah, exactly. She went and officiated a fucking maskless wedding and then fucking died. Okay? That's what happened to Ruth Bader Ginsburg. And guess what happened when she fucking died? Donald Trump was the president. I don't know if you remember that. Yeah. These girl bosses dying doing what they fucking love. Okay? Holy moly. Politicians are not your favorite athletes for you to root on TV. They're stewards of power who are responsible for representing real people. And when they exercise the power carelessly, that's as much a part of their legacy as anything they did in office, sometimes even more so. Exactly. Exactly. Confirming Biden's judicial nominees has to be the Senate Democrats' top priority between now and the 2024 election. Feinstein's death will make it a lot harder for them to do so. I don't like this any more than you do, but here we are. That's precisely the fucking problem, by the way. Yeah, if you want to know what happens when you fucking don't leave office or don't leave your lifetime appointment, for example, and basically if you're a fucking blue senator from California, it's fundamentally the same thing. It's like a lifetime appointment. Literally, you die on the fucking seat. Dianne Feinstein technically voted yesterday. I want you to understand. Dianne Feinstein and the Senate Judiciary Committee like had appointments yesterday, okay? And then she died. So for the last couple of months, they've just been making her press buttons like Weekend at fucking Bernie style. And for the record, they had to do that. They had to do that because she fucking selfishly ran again, and then her brain turned into fucking mush. Yeah, she said they took her back to her fucking DC home, and she died, okay? And now we're fucked. Very frustrating. But this is what happens with RBG dying in the same way. One of the best, one of the worst turning points in contemporary American history, for the record. Like this is when it was like solidified, permanent supermajority, and it was like absolutely solidified that like the American trajectory was going to change. Civil liberties were going to be clamped down even harder. Not that like the Supreme Court was protecting any civil liberties at all, especially as it pertains to workers' rights, obviously. But like, you know, it was just this moment right here is a pivotal fucking moment in the United States history, contemporary history.
She just died? Wow. I didn't know that. I just, you're telling me now for the first time. She led an amazing life. What else can you say? She was an amazing woman.
Like, look at his fucking stupid face, like, where he's just so elated. Like, the best, he has the, wow, you've given me the best news face, okay? Why, in his mind, he's thinking, what have I done to deserve this much good grace?
led an amazing life. What else can you say? She was an amazing woman. Whether you agreed or not, she was an amazing woman who led an amazing life. I'm actually sad to hear that. I am sad to hear that. Thank you very much.
It's a perfect clip. It's a perfect synopsis, a snapshot of like American societal failure in display. Anyway, so before they were murdered, Harvey Milk and Mayor Moscone were working on sweeping tenants' rights ordinances across San Francisco that could have had lasting effects. Dianne Feinstein was about to resign from politics. Then she found Harvey's body and everything changed. History's crazy. I was just doing some research this afternoon for this book on Oakland PD and came across a lovely mention of Dianne Feinstein firing the San Francisco Police Department Charles Gain, ex-OPD chief, because he refused to let the San Francisco Police Department crack gay skulls after Harvey Milk's assassination. Mr. Gaines' police career, which began in Oakland in 1946, ran around in May after he was severely criticized for refusing to allow the police to attack rioting homosexuals. The rioters were protesting what they regarded as a lenient manslaughter verdict against Dan White, the killer of Mayor George R. Moscone, and Supervisor Harvey Milk, the first avowed homosexual to hold public office here. She put up a Confederate flag alongside a bunch of other flags where the Spartacist communists were routinely doing demonstrations to take the Confederate flag down. That part is also real. But, if you go to PolitiFact, they'll try to hand wave that away. You predicted this about Dianne Feinstein? I did.
Minutes ago,
someone asked if Dianne Feinstein dies before Grand Theft Auto 6, and the answer is yes.
And actually, Eric, I wanted to start with you.
What did you guys key search Dianne Feinstein? Man, I made a lot of fucking Dianne Feinstein death predictions, but it's not even that good.
You were involved with every single God of War, including 2018's God of War. Is that correct?
That's like a 100% certain.
We saw just a few minutes ago.
I mean, I've said a lot about Dianne Feinstein dying. The most prescient one is obviously the here it is. I posted this on my Twitter. Did you know Dianne Feinstein is running for re-election in 2024? I heard about that. It's a fucking meme. I don't think Dianne Feinstein makes it to 2024. I think she will die before that. She is way too fucking old. I'm sorry. Did you know Dianne Feinstein is running for re-election? Anyway, Dianne Feinstein, in a similar category to fucking Ruth Bader Ginsburg. Sure, Dianne Feinstein believed in mass surveillance, was involved in illegal stock trading, and refused to retire even though she couldn't remember where she was. But let's not forget, she also single-handedly screwed up the Night Stalker search. It's called Priorities, people. Yeah, that is one of my favorite Feinstein moments. There is at least one good thing that Dianne Feinstein did do that I thought was, the right thing to do, for the record. Another one of your Feinstein bangers, edit by Little Bear.
The health of California Senator Dianne Feinstein. The 89-year-old Democrat recently returned to Capitol Hill in 3-month absence due to a bout of shingles. Her office confirms that she's dealing with some serious complications.
What do you mean? She looks perfectly fine. Nothing to worry about. Look at this, dude. It's so fucked. Oh, no, dude. There's nothing to worry about. What are you guys talking about? What the fuck? You just hate to see a sexy-ass woman have it all? I'm going to hell. How about the people that are propping her up with a fucking stick behind her back? What about the people that are like, no, dude, don't say anything is wrong. There's literally nothing wrong with this. Everything is fine.
The health of California Senator.
Oh. It's like... Seeing her in this video made me realize how old she was because she looks old here.
Both Mayor Moscone and Supervisor Harvey Milk have been shot and killed.
Yeah, bro, that's how old she is. I mean, Dianne Feinstein, isn't there like a... We can look at the list of things that Dianne Feinstein is like older than. Like, she saw the invention of like chocolate chip cookies or some shit, right? Like toast, white bread. Like sliced toasted bread. Like she was there when sliced bread was invented, dog. Do you understand? She's older than the fucking Golden Gate Bridge. It's not a joke. Like, this is a very real thing. She was there when they discovered water. Yeah, she was. Bro, she was there when they discovered fire. They were like, wow, that's crazy. Oh, here it is. Yeah, it's not even a joke. 4 U.S. senators are literally older than chocolate chip cookies. The chocolate chip cookie was invented in 1938. Okay? One of the greatest inventions of all time. Alaska, Hawaii statehood. I mean, those are not that. I mean, I guess that's like still relatively new, newer than Dianne Feinstein, so there is that. Dianne Feinstein is 3 years younger than the invention of sliced bread and Scotch tape, the same age as FM radio, 2 years older than canned beer, nylon, and radar, 4 years older than the jet engine and photocopier, 5 years older than the LSD and ballpoint pens, 6 years older than helicopters. I made the same post about Chuck Grassley last year, and a bunch of right-wingers tried to pull a gotcha by saying he's 3 months younger than her. And I was like, no, you misunderstood. I do not think that anyone that age should be in office. Helicopters. Yeah. She was there when they invented chocolate cookies. Yeah, like chocolate chip cookies were invented after Dianne Feinstein, man. You can't. Like, can you imagine? What the fuck were they eating beforehand? You know what I mean?
Things invented after Dianne Feinstein was born. If you close one eye and then squint the other one and rock back and forth, she doesn't look a day over 89. Dianne Feinstein is older than the San Francisco 49ers, the atomic bomb, the ballpoint pen. She's 5 years older than the ability to photocopy. She's older than the creation of Spider-Man. Matter of fact, she's older than the creation of Marvel Comics as a whole by about 6 years. So take every one of your favorite Marvel superheroes, and she's older than all of them grouped together. Smells like chocolate chip cookies. Really put it into perspective. Dianne Feinstein's parents were doing the before World War II even started. Oh yeah, she's older than the Harry Truman administration. And remember, guys, these videos are not an endorsement of any party, not an endorsement of a political candidate. Rather, an endorsement of the idea that we need term limits.
Yeah. It's pretty fire. I mean, she did a lot of good. She did a lot of bad.
Richard Bradley never thought
Richard
these...
Bradley, fucking communist hero, communist legend. Who is Richard Bradley? The man who took Dianne Feinstein speaks out 37 years later. Yeah, I don't feel like my policy on this shit is always, what is your legacy? What did you do? Why did you do it? And I don't immediately go to glaze mode in the same way that like a lot of the mainstream media does, right? Because whenever someone dies, they're like, oh my God, we got to preserve their legacy and like act like they were wonderful, you know? And in most cases, if you're talking about a politician, there are very few politicians that deserve that kind of legacy preservation. Okay? And oftentimes the ones that do deserve that kind of legacy preservation don't get it. They're routinely hailed as like bloodthirsty, monstrous villains. You know, Che Guevara, Fidel Castro, and the like. Lenin! And others. And historical figures that don't deserve that kind of legacy preservation get it, especially in the United States of America, right? I'm, of course, talking about, for example, George H.W. Bush, a gigantic piece of shit, a monstrous person in general, both in the CIA and also as president, doing a fuck ton of war crimes. And Ronald Reagan is another great example. These are all awful, psychopathic weirdos, losers, and yet they get wall-to-wall, glazed-up coverage. Now, obviously, Dianne Feinstein is not to the same degree. Like, she's not as big as it and as disastrous as a fucking monster that Ronald Reagan was, but she still wasn't great. So, no, I'm not going to do the regular fucking classic coverage of like, well, this person is wonderful. She did a lot of good things. I will talk about some of the good things that she did because there are moments where she got things right, okay? I will admit that. But the reality is that overall, she was a institutionalist who was a force to be reckoned with in the Democratic machine in California, much like Nancy Pelosi, who was also running for re-election. Remember, Nancy Pelosi stated like a month ago that she's running for re-election, okay? You should not do that. Stop doing that. Not to say that like the younger version of Nancy Pelosi, Hakeem Jeffries, is going to be any better, but you know, just what the fuck are you doing? Like, get someone else to take up the fucking, to take up that role, to take up that position, and actually push the party forward. This is a progressive safe haven. Put like actual fucking progressives in charge. Jesus Christ. Oh, I hate it. Anyway, but yeah, let's hear how the media is covering the Dianne Feinstein death, and we'll get to what the actual legacy is, and obviously I'll still keep making jokes about how I feel about Dianne Feinstein and all the times that I've correctly predicted that she will die any moment now.
Judiciary Committee, where her vote has been essential to moving forward with the Biden administration's judicial nominees over the last several years and last several months in particular. Senator Dianne Feinstein has a long legislative history and record, including the fact that she was the architect of the 1994 assault weapons ban. Fighting gun violence has been a key issue for Senator Feinstein over the course of her career.
This part is correct and is like a big dub for Dianne, okay? That is actually a very good dub, a very big dub for Dianne Feinstein. As much as I love, as much as I personally am a assault weapons enjoyer and one who has shot many, and fuck is it? Hold on. I'll go bring mine in honor of Dianne right now, but this was good. This was smart. Of course, it expired, and then I think that's probably one of the first moments, like in the lead up to the assault weapons ban, was one of the first moments that the gun manufacturers realized, oh my God, we can make so much fucking money by acting like these guns will never be released to market.
Career. She was also the first woman to serve as the chairman of the Senate Intelligence Committee, and she fought even against her Democratic colleagues to release details of the enhanced interrogation techniques that were used under the Bush administration, going toe-to-toe with the Obama administration in trying to get the public more informed about what had occurred during those years in the war in Iraq and Afghanistan. So obviously, she is someone who has a long legislative history, a long career.
That part is also good. One thing that they will never mention in the mainstream media that I actually do think Dianne Feinstein was like surprisingly and shockingly good on is anti-BDS legislation. Dianne Feinstein, alongside Bernie Sanders, were openly against all of the anti-BDS legislation that was getting passed all around the country. 100%. That is something that I will always respect, because it is one of those things where there is no political appetite for it. All you're doing is expending social political capital for no fucking reason whatsoever, other than the fact that you think it's gross, disgusting, and anti-First Amendment. BDS is boycott, divestment, and sanctions on the state of Israel. It is a peaceful way to try and organize and protest against the apartheid state of Israel. And it is illegal to be a supporter of it in 35 states. It is a complete and utter failure. It is directly in violation of the First Amendment, and yet it gets no coverage whatsoever. And it's just like a given that we have a foreign nation, and its lobbyists, its interest groups, perfectly tailor, craft legislation that goes against the First Amendment. Okay, in a clear-cut violation of the First Amendment. It's insane. Yeah. So, something to remember. So she copied Bernie's homework. That's not a W. You're crazy if you think that, like, as a sitting politician, it doesn't actually demonstrate courage and moral conviction on one of these issues, at least. Sorry. There are a couple things that I will automatically give you props for, and that is, one, if you stand in solidarity with Palestinians, or at the very least, like, openly put your fucking name out there in as a sitting politician that says, no, these kinds of laws are fucking completely unjustifiable. It is way too far. That's definitely praise that Dianne Feinstein deserved. Okay? Hope your gun safe was down there and you didn't just leave your gun on the floor, Lamau. Brother. It's on my lap. I always keep that fucking thing on me. So yes. Her it's not like she was supportive of the BDS movement. She just thought that anti-BDS legislation was against the First Amendment, which is true. It is, and she was right to put her name out there to stake her reputation on that. That does deserve praise because it is politically courageous to do. That's number one. That's one of the things that I will always respect. Another thing is prisoners' rights, like not just criminal justice reform, but like those who, and this never happens really in American politics at all. We don't even consider that, but like anyone who ever is on, whoever sides and openly will defend Palestinians or prisoners, like criminals in general, and their humanity is good on my side, okay? It takes a lot of courage even if you're not a fucking politician, to say these things in the United States of America. It shouldn't be the case, but it is true. So, you know, those are two W. I mean, not that she was on criminals. She was defending the rights of criminals or anything like that, obviously. I'm just saying that those are things, those are issues that certainly are contentious and that people will immediately yell at you for. And yet, you know, Dianne Feinstein, at least on one of those things, was in support of the truth and justice and morality. And that is, of course, her perspective on anti-BDS legislation. Anti-boycott, divestments, and sanctions on Israel legislation, which, by the way, is, one, it's commendable. Two, it was tailored around BDS movements created against apartheid South Africa. Okay? So, something to remember. The assault weapons ban was good. Her anti-torture investigations were good. Her takes against anti-BDS legislation was good.
Someone who is obviously going to be very missed by her colleagues, but as I noted, she has been struggling with health issues over the last several months. She was absent from the Senate for many months as she fought shingles and complications from shingles. She returned to the Senate and had struggled at times with her role on the Senate Judiciary and Appropriations Committee. Specifically, a few months ago, she was struggling, to vote on a vote in the Senate Appropriations Committee. So it is something that has come to pass, but we are still getting more details about Senate.
Brainwashed imperialists here. What's so bad about Israel? Brother, where do I begin? I mean, just Google Nakba 1948 and start from that point, okay? A nation state in its inception was built on settler colonial occupation, and was violent from its inception all the way to increasingly more violent and brutal and genocidal, especially now. I don't know. That's pretty good. A pretty good place to start, I think. Every kind of criticism that you can launch towards the settler colonial violence that is currently occurring in the West Bank, which is internationally not recognized as a territory belonging to Israel, is how Israel was formed as a nation state. Yes, or just Google my name with Palestine. I've covered it extensively. So yeah.
Senator Dianne Feinstein's passing.
And Lauren, thank you for the breaking news. Please stay with us, as I believe we also have our colleague Casey Hunt on the phone. Casey, can you hear us?
Hey, guys. Yeah, I'm with you.
You think about her service, 31 years in the Senate, elected in 92, longest serving woman senator ever. Lauren talked about the work that she did.
Yeah, let's not make any inferences about Biden's shelf life either off of this, for the record. He will be totally fine. Certainly, he also isn't looking like he's about to fucking die, Just let's not even consider that. Let's not even think about that, obviously. It's just don't think about the top of the hour ad break, which comes at the top of every hour, and how you can avoid those ads by subscribing for $5 or for free with a Twitch Prime, by connecting your Amazon Prime account to your Twitch account, where you get one free Prime subscription a month. Don't bring that. Don't bring that up. I think this is hurting Biden because people are thinking about it even more now. Brother, I don't think, in the case of Biden, I don't think you can think about it more. It's on his face. He wears it on his sleeve. You know what I mean? Every time you see him out and about, you're like, oh, he's going to die soon. And that's really fucking weird that, we just don't see that at all. I have not seen Biden in any of his recent public appearances. I've never looked at him and went, wow, he looks vibrant here. He sure looks vibrant, and he looks like he's got vigor here. That's not, he just looks like he's dead. He's already dead, and they're just propping him up with a stick, just like Dianne Feinstein. And holy moly, that is, who knows what the fuck's going to happen. You know what I mean? I hate Hassan now. I've become a hater, shaking my head. Okay, here's the 3-minute ad break now before I forget. Who's your money on, Biden or Trump first? Considering that evil never dies, which also helps Brandon in this situation as well, but the more evil party in that situation, marginally more evil party, would be Donald Trump. He will definitely have a longer shelf life than Brandon. Because in the real world, unlike in the movies or in novels, in fiction, in the real world, evil never dies. In fiction, good triumphs over evil and everybody celebrates and says kumbaya. Whereas in the real world, evil never dies. You have Dick Cheney, who's still kicking, who's still alive. You have fucking Henry Kissinger, who's still alive. Anyway, the man from the ether, thank you for the 10 gifted subs. And also Saxy Panda Bear, thank you for the 100 gifted subs. Holy fuck. I don't know, man. Biden looks pretty good in this. This was a pretty fire
Dap
one.
me up is?
No.
Okay, so you have to like that. That's how you dap me up. So do it. Dap me up. Woo!
The way we do it in my neighborhood, you go like this. You walk up, you go like this.
He's got, we talked about this before. He's got so much grip. Like, he's got old man grip in this. This is old, though. Not super old, but definitely old. You haven't seen this picture of Biden? Could Donald Trump stretch like this? No, absolutely not. Trump can't do half the things Biden does. Wait, what? Oh, God. We're so cooked. We are so fucking cooked. This is like one of those DNC TikTokers, right? Yeah, he's like the DNC kid. Good for him. Honestly, is he wrong? Brother, he's stretching his legs. Like, he's got his good moments, and his good moments are far, they're hard to come by in comparison to his very, very bad moments. Anyway, blue jean baby. I'm thinking of fucking Dianne Feinstein on this beautiful
Here's what
moment.
I gotta say. You want Feinstein to be in the Senate? Great, okay? You fucking advocate that in public. You have to let her drive you to fucking Congress every morning.
Oh,
you stupid fuck.
I love
Do
that
it.
deal.
You think she has the mental faculties? Drive the car to Congress, okay? Let her drive you to fucking Congress.
She probably can't even dress herself. Let's be real.
No, she's done. She's over. It's literally a shell, okay?
Oh, wait.
People that you would not trust to man a fucking vehicle that you're inside of for understandable reasons are still trustworthy somehow to man the fucking country. And it goes to show you, like, it's true. Like, they don't really care who is in that seat. It's just an ass in a seat, okay? And the irony is, there are plenty of fucking old-ass senators who should retire but won't. But ultimately, at least they can sit on that seat and vote. Dianne Feinstein can't even fucking do that when there's there is a slim majority in the Senate.
Yeah. Bet you feel pretty bad for her now. RIP to that skin bag. No, I feel bad for the country. I feel bad for our prospects. I feel bad for our future. I feel bad for what Dianne Feinstein's reelection meant for the Democratic Party. I feel bad for everybody because this is much larger. This is a much larger issue than Dianne Feinstein. Okay? It's not just that she was like a bag of bones that was decaying actively in front of our fucking eyes. The issue is that despite the very obvious reality that she was a decaying corpse, okay, mummifying in real time, she was still on the fucking Senate Judiciary Committee, okay? That is terrifying. Just like Bob Menendez was on the motherfucking Senate Foreign Relations Committee. Like, why are we doing this? Just like Joe Manchin is on the Energy Committee, the chairman. Think about that. What does that say about the Democratic Party, to you at least? These are high-ranking Democrats, chat. Like, I know I don't always get super into electoralism and, like, the Democratic Party. I don't get into the nitty-gritty of the Democratic Party. But what is incredibly frustrating to me about this kind of stuff is that they don't even do a good job with the metrics that we don't even apply to them. Okay? They don't do a good job with the metrics. If you were a, like, diehard, vote blue, no matter who Democrat, who is a lib, who comes in here and says, Hassan, you simply don't understand politics is the art of the possible, you should still be angry, okay? You should still be angry. You should be angry at your party for putting this person in a position of fucking power. I said this earlier. I said Menendez being the chairman of the Foreign Relations Committee and the now dead Dianne Feinstein being on the Senate Judiciary Committee just tells me Democrats want to play on New Game Plus difficulty. Subscribing is literally zero value. Agree. Haha. Fun fact. Disagree. But it's not the top of the hour right now because I already ran the ad break. But, come back again later, chatter.
Really the architect of the assault weapons ban back in 1994, a huge voice as well when it came to the push to legalize gay marriage. As we'll get to the health in a moment, but just help us remember the woman and the senator.
Absolutely, Poppy. I mean, Lauren touched on this a little bit, and I know, Phil can speak to this too. He and I often were in the halls together talking with Senator Feinstein. I mean, she really was a legend, an icon for women in politics.
Oh my God.
She is someone who, was breaking ground from the beginning when she was first working in San Francisco with Harvey Milk and some of the, kind of
Shut
original
the fuck up!
battles over rights for gay Americans. And, she is somebody who had just an incredibly storied career from there, rising to national prominence. And, Lauren outlined a couple of the things that she really took the lead.
Let me ask a question here. Like, why are all the iconic female politicians such fucking assholes? Okay. Maybe we should have better iconic female politicians, which we do. There are actually good politicians out there that you could point to. You know what I mean? Ilhan Omar, AOC, Rashida Tlaib. You know what I mean? They're out there. Cori Bush. But hey, guess what, dude? We got fucking Dianne Feinstein. She's iconic. She's the best. Okay.
Lead on, I remember in particular her work on the Intelligence Committee, and when she was focusing in on some of the things that had happened in the course of the Iraq War, and how she really took that on in a way that took political courage at the time, and really stood out and was very forceful in how she represented that. But again, Poppy, I think she really blazed a trail at a time when there were not very many women role models in politics for others to follow.
Yeah, she was a trailblazer. She showed women that you too can be a fucking asshole, okay? You too can be just as fucking rigid, just as anti-progress, just as shitty as the fucking male assholes in positions of power. How fucking sick. Thank you so much. Thank you for trailblazing. Thank you for paving the goddamn way, Dianne. You fucking did it. We did it, Joe. We did it. God damn it, dude. This one goes out. This one goes out for the Feinstein heads out there. You know what I mean? This is shots in the air. Firing some rounds for for Dianne. Oh fuck! I think might be out of juice. Yeah. Yeah, it's out of gas. I was trying to do a despot, but it didn't work.
It was a very, very tough road for her in the beginning. And she is someone who, Nancy Pelosi, for example, she would have been an example for Pelosi, also of San Francisco. And she did, of course, come in for some criticism from Democrats near the end of her life, because she was grappling with those health challenges, as you're seeing a little bit of on your screen now here.
A little bit of health challenges, bro. She was dying. She's been on ice trying to desperately prolong the last remaining fucking 3% of her health bar for like 10 years, man. Get the fuck out of here.
But I do think that on this particular day, you're correct to focus in on kind of what she meant in such a broad way to so many people.
And the ground that she broke for so many people. Phil, you were the chief congressional correspondent. Just your thoughts on her.
I mean, I think Casey's point, I think your point, this is important here. There's been so much focus on the health and the age and everything. People need to think about who the senator was, obviously passing away at 90. But not only was she a titan in the Senate and kind of in a class of female legislators that changed the dynamic and the face of the institution as well in its entirety. Over the course of her career, from when she was at the San Francisco Board of Supervisors, the first president of the Board of Supervisors, the reason she became mayor of San Francisco was because of the shooting death that included Harvey Milk, but also the mayor at the time, and her rise within San Francisco and to where she became such a powerful.
I like that the only fucking photos that they can use of Dianne Feinstein that don't like immediately betray the supposed ideal that they're representing, like the ideal Dianne Feinstein, who certainly wasn't dead for the past like 10 years, is from the Obama without white hair era, okay? Like from the beginning of the Obama presidency. You can't even show like second term Obama, okay? It's like literally the only times where Dianne Feinstein like doesn't look like a decrepit carcass is like 2009.
Chair of multiple committees. Focus on that. That is so much more important and so much more central to her career and to her life than I think what has been a difficult last couple of months.
Let's bring in CNN's Dana Bash for more on this. Dana, just your thoughts first and foremost about the passing of Dianne Feinstein.
It's very sad. Very, very sad. What an extraordinary, extraordinary woman.
It's pretty funny. I found her name here interesting considering she cared so much about CIA torture. Yeah, I mean, listen, let's be real. Obviously, she fucking sucks. Okay? 58% 29 of the 50 Democratic senators voted for the resolution. Okay? 48 Republicans with the yeas, 1 nay. 29 of the Democrats voted with yeas, 21 nays. Dianne Feinstein, Night Stalker, is the other part that we're going to actually cover, okay?
An extraordinary life, an extraordinary career. I, as Phil and you, Kate, we had the privilege of covering her for years. I was able to spend time with her both in the...
I'd love to see a commentator come on and say, I'm glad that bitch is dead just for the shock value. They would never do that. You would get fucking fired so fast and never rehired for the rest of your life. No commentator would say that. Plus, that isn't even like political courage, really. That's just like being silly, okay? Like, I say shock value shit like that, but the reality is because I fucking sit in my goddamn living room and say whatever the fuck I want. And that's the difference, but there's a reason for it. I would much rather have a political commentator on mainstream media adequately address why she was incredibly selfish. Okay? That's the major problem I have, is that, you know, she's a regular run-of-the-mill Democrat, institutional Democrat, holds on to power for far too long, doesn't open up the way for like other more progressive people to come in and fill the role as a California senator. It's fucking unimaginable to do that. It's like ridiculous. Okay? Like, she's so goddamn old that like there was a point in time when she was progressive, like 30 fucking years ago. And her values have remained the same for 30 fucking years. So all of a sudden, she's no longer fucking progressive for the past 20 years. You know what I mean? Even as a senator.
United States Senate and at home in San Francisco. I actually did a profile on her.
Yes.
After Hillary Clinton lost in 2016, we were sitting around and talking about women and the question of whether a woman would ever become president. Abigail Crutchfield and Rachel Smith.
People still voted for her for 30 years. Brother, what are people supposed to do? Vote for a Republican? Like, what are you, insane? The entire point of this, the entire process is that the Democratic Party does not allow that, like, that seat to be given up, okay? That's the issue. You can't do anything. Like, what are you supposed to do? There's no primary opposition that's like decent. You know what I mean? It just doesn't fucking matter.
Mulkin and others here. And it dawned on us that there's so many women who have done amazing things, and let's profile them. Our very first profile was on Dianne Feinstein. That's right. And she just had so many incredible insights about what it took to do what she did, becoming the first female senator to represent the very large state of California, and also what happened before that. You've been talking a little bit about, yes, we have been focused on her career in the Senate, which is very rich and very vast, but what happened before she got there? And she was in the mayor's office in San Francisco because of tragedy, because of the assassination of Harvey Milk and also the mayor of San Francisco. And she was the one who came out and announced it that night, late at night. And it was that moment, that unbelievable tragedy, that not only propelled her to 10 years in the mayor's office, but what drove her lifelong push for gun control and the assault weapons ban, which of course lapsed, and then she tried unsuccessfully to get back in. And there's just so many aspects of her life and what happened in her life that shaped her. One thing I do want to, I'm just looking back on some of the things that she told me. It was back in 2017, and you'll all appreciate this. When she first got into politics, she went to Stanford University, and when she first got into politics, people said, something must be wrong with her. She must have a bad marriage. Why is she doing this? That was the only reason people could even conceive of the fact that a woman would get into politics and want to be in public service the way that she was, and the way that she succeeded and of course exceeded expectations for all those decades.
I think Dianne Feinstein is going to be remembered as a brave senator, one who really followed her convictions, one who helped open doors for a lot of other.
Ay, ay, ay. This shit is so lame, brother. Oh. Remember in 2016, the National Dems, Pelosi, and Obama killed any other candidate Californians wanted for her? There was no... This article calls her an ally to the LGBT community, but then lists 100 things she did to hurt the LGBTQ community. No matter how straight-laced she seemed, Dianne Feinstein didn't care who you sleep with. Despite the late California's 1950s wife image, she became a pioneering advocate for the gay community. First of all, she's the mayor at that point of the gayest place in America, okay? And in spite of that, her record is like kind of wishy-washy on it. So what the fuck are we talking about here? It was a political dynamic that shaped her career more broadly. Still, Liz Feinstein, who died Thursday, is celebrated as a trailblazer for women, a historic steward for her hometown during an era of upheaval and consequential U.S. senator. Her leadership helped in usher LGBTQ citizens in America's mainstream, should not be overlooked. From her time serving on the San Francisco Board of Supervisors for Harvey Milk to her battle to protect transgender service members, Dianne Feinstein has been a champion for LGBT equality and justice, an early adapter. Same could be said for Eliotto's heavily Irish and Italian Catholic police force. The city had an active gay underground since the gold rush, but local cops and the state alcohol control board agents alike aggressively enforced archaic public morality statutes well into the 70s. I would say that she was progressive 50 years ago, and then she kind of just stayed the course on those values. Like, they didn't shift too much. Okay? Yeah, like it's literally like, oh, she wasn't actively pushing to cull homosexuals in public. So she was progressive. And let's be real, only socially progressive, not economically. That's also true. And in that regard, like, ultimately, there's a section, infuriating ally. Yeah. In a case study, the paradoxical dynamics of the independent, pragmatic, and moderate in the mainstream brand of politics Feinstein always embodied, however, she also episodically confounded, disappointed, and angered gay leaders and voters. Although she was an early champion of gay rights, Feinstein also conducted a one-woman crusade against pornography and X-rated theaters, many of them serving gay men. In the early 1970s, she licensed gay businesses and First Amendment advocates. She incensed gay business and First Amendment advocates while alienating the liberated and liberal young men flocking to the city that would become Milk's base when she tried to ban pornographic material presenting acts of masturbation, homosexuality, sexual intercourse, and physical contact with another person, clothed or unclothed genitals. It was one reason Feinstein and Milk did not get along. He thought her incorrigible prude, calling her the Wicked Witch of the West behind her back. Milk saw Jim Foster, Feinstein's gay ally, as an enemy. His work within the system, partnerships with straight Democrats, too timid for his in-your-face approach. She detested Milk's grandstanding, performative style, seeing it as too indecorous and unsuited to proper political deliberations. Once at a hearing on Milk's proposed ban on anti-gay housing discrimination, Feinstein protested that landlords would be forced to accept tenants who were into S&M. Like BDSM. I want to repeat that one more time. The gay ally, Dianne Feinstein, detested Harvey Milk's grandstanding and performative style, which, by the way, why is this article, like, instead of just, like, glazing up Dianne Feinstein, this article also, weirdly enough, is, like, assuming the position of Dianne Feinstein and like, weirdly anti-Harvey Milk? Like, what's happening there? Like, the framing of this literally feels like Dianne Feinstein's position is the correct one. Seeing as too indecorous and unsuited to proper political deliberations. Like, oh, so you think it's like you agree with it, kind of. Once at a hearing on Milk's proposed ban on anti-gay housing discrimination, Feinstein said it's like if landlords were forced to accept tenants who were into BDSM, okay, S&M. Sadism and masochism. Though they sniped at each other throughout their brief 10 months together in office, wonder why that was brief, she provided crucial support for passing Milk's landmark bill by one vote on the polarized board. After Milk's murder, friends disclosed that eerily fearing assassination, he had recorded a tape naming 3 possible successors and ruling out Jim Foster. Feinstein followed his wishes, appointing left-wing activist Harry Britt. As she prepared for the November 1979 elections for her own full term as mayor, however, Feinstein's political relations with gay voters broke down. Amid a wave of national media attention, she angered LGBTQ people with an insensitive comment in a Ladies' Home Journal interview. The right of an individual to live as he or she chooses can become offensive, she said. The gay community is going to have to face this. It's time for us to live here, respecting each other's lifestyles, but that doesn't mean imposing them on others. You know, if you are a homosexual, you're putting, don't say gay. If you're a homosexual, you're imposing your homosexuality by being homosexual in public. Keep that shit in the fucking bedroom. In May that year, she stumbled. Okay, I need to explain something here. Okay? When adjusted to the time that she was serving, okay, you can immediately rush to her defense and say, well, dude, what the fuck? Everyone else was literally saying cull the homosexuals. Okay? So technically she's not saying that. She's just saying keep it in the bedroom. Okay? But when you look at the actual place where she was doing it, okay, San fucking Francisco, okay, and compare her to like openly gay politicians like Harvey Milk, you realize, oh, Jesus Christ, this is supposed to be like, you know, this is supposed to be the safe haven. At the time, it's like the gay capital of the planet, okay? What the fuck is Gorbachev doing? What is this? In May that year, she stumbled in her first big crisis as mayor. Thousands of gay people and others rioted after a conservative jury found Dan White guilty of 2 counts, not of murder, but voluntary manslaughter, the equivalent of vehicular homicide. By the way, I need you to understand something here. When this kind of like political assassinations occur, the criminal justice system absolutely sides with the oppressors, with the fascist elements. Okay, and that is a constant throughout American history, and that has not changed, okay? I need you to understand that. Like, it's gotten maybe in some instances worse, too. Like, Kyle Rittenhouse is a great example of this, obviously. Like, what the intent and the purpose was for him to go there and shoot a bunch of fucking BLM protesters, right, to save private property that he had nothing to do with. Like, all of that stuff factors into this. There was a Native American protest, indigenous protesters in New Mexico yesterday. Okay, in an area that is actually identical to where the last time this similar thing happened, where a dude, I forget his name, I think it's like Ryan Martinez or something, like a fucking he's a Latino kid who is a psychotic MAGA kid, went up to the protesters, the indigenous protesters that were protesting the statue of a conquistador, okay, and opened fire and shot a indigenous protester in the stomach. Now, his condition is fine, luckily, okay? His condition is stable, it's not critical. But the reality is that in a similar in the same exact fucking state in 2020, I remember covering another story where an identical thing had happened, and the guy who fucking shot at the crowd and like was trying to threaten them with his guns actually got a lowered sentence. Here. This is Ryan Martinez, the fascist gunman who shot a peaceful indigenous protester in New Mexico. He is Latino and is a MAGA supporter. His Facebook profile is pretty funny. It's like, fuck CCP, fuck Brandon. Okay? But the reality is, the actual people in positions of power in places like this that are a part of the criminal justice process, like the police force, for example, are 100% on his side, so they don't do their fucking due diligence. Yeah. This happened yesterday, and you didn't even hear about it, and you probably would have never even heard about it unless I covered it. This happened yesterday. He believes he's not Latino, but a pure Spaniard. Exactly. The fucking delusion. Respectfully, he is not Hispanic. He's the kid of Hispanics, but he doesn't speak Spanish and has never lived in Latin America. Brother, his name is Ryan Martinez, okay? He is a part of the 70% of Latino Americans, okay, that consider themselves to be white. He is still Hispanic and Latino, regardless of whether or not he believes it. You know what I mean? He doesn't speak Spanish. He doesn't have to speak Spanish. He doesn't have to be from a Latin American country. Okay? It doesn't fucking matter. You're basic, like, that metric that you're mentioning means that, like, the overwhelming majority of Chicanos living on U.S. soil are just not Latino. You know what I mean? And even if he's like straight out of fucking Spain, okay, it doesn't even matter. Even if he's straight out of fucking Spain, living in America, it's the same energy as, it's the same fucking energy as people being like, oh, I'm actually from Africa. I'm first generation African migrant, so I'm different. I'm not black. It's like I'm not African American. It's like, dude, in the eyes of the broader American white supremacist framework, you're black, okay? Which is a reality that first generation, fresh off the boat, African migrants immediately find out, in spite of what their original perspective on the differences between being a first generation African migrant or an African descendant of slave might be. Okay? You're still black. Ryan Martinez, in the eyes of white supremacists, is not on the fucking team. There's no like, oh, he's Spanish descent. Like, he doesn't have mestizo in him. Like, okay, all right, cool. Explain that to like the law enforcement. Is this Latino white dynamic only in the U.S. or expressed in other countries in South America? Yes, of course. Colorism is a massive fucking part of Latino culture. Colorism implies like colorism in the sense that like how many of your descendants are directly from indigenous populations versus the colonizers is a major point of contention. Colorism also with respect to slavery. I mean, there are so many components. Colorism is impossible to avoid all around the world in general. Even places that had colorism that predates Western colonial expansion, like China is an example of this. Like even before Western expansion, the Chinese had colorism, specifically surrounding the differences between fair-skinned Chinese people being of a closer to royalty and closer to nobility, because that implied that they did not work in the fucking fields. Okay? Lighter skin was seen as more valuable in China even before Western colonialism. It was seen as a mark that you are closer to nobility, because it implied that you did not have to work in the fucking fields and did not see too much direct sunlight. Huh. Anyway, it doesn't even fucking matter though. Ultimately, there are differences for it, but obviously in the most common way that we look at colorism, it is directly a consequence of Western imperialism, Western expansion, and colonialism. That is where that comes from, especially in South America. Why the discussion of colorism, by the way? Just tuned in because we're looking at Ryan Martinez, a fascist gunman who shot a peaceful indigenous protester in New Mexico. Now, the point is, and why I brought that up, was because that reminded me of a story, again, from New Mexico, again, with indigenous protesters and Trump-supporting freaks who shot at them, and the lowered charges that they got in that situation. Because if you are engaging in fascist violence, the criminal justice system will defend you and will give you lower sentencing in most circumstances. So that's something to consider, and that is why we have not made too much progress in that regard. And here it is. You have a situation with Dan White and the riots that ensued after. Okay? Conservatives bash Feinstein for being too lenient with the protesters, while Britt led cries of outrage from the left, blaming her after cops invaded a gay bar at a closing time during White Night Riot and beat patrons and others milling on Castro Street, the heart of Milk's district. Anger over the cops, her magazine quote, and increasing reports of street attacks on the LGBTQ community cost her politically. She was forced into a runoff against her conservative archenemy on the board of supervisors after a gay realtor named David Scott captured 10% of the November vote in his run as a protest candidate. It starkly demonstrated that the gay people now held balance of electoral power in San Francisco. In the runoff, Feinstein apologized for her magazine comments. I don't come to you as a perfect person that knows all the answers and that doesn't make mistakes, she said at a crucial debate sponsored by the local gay Democratic club. But I do come at you as someone who's got a heart and a concern and a very deep interest and desire to represent this community. She won Scott's endorsement and a 4-year term of her own. One more big political clash with the gay community remained. You got to stop repeating the 70% stat. Is straight up wrong. The actual stat is 58% of Hispanics on a census survey. When Hispanic or Latino isn't an option to pick, choose white over black. When Latino is an option, it drops to 17%. The 70% isn't right. You should stop saying that. It's like 17%, which isn't insignificant, but not even close to 70%. Okay. I'll investigate what you're saying a little bit further. But I've seen other. He's completely right. I keep cringing when you say 70%. There is a shift in American demographics that a lot of people get frustrated by because the reality is that Latino populations in this country, okay, in this community, you might get upset about it, okay, specifically when talking about whiteness and Hispanic people being considered white in this country. But in the eyes of the federal government, there is a deliberate attempt to bring Hispanic people into the white population in an effort to keep the white percentage at a level that doesn't terrify the fucking hyper racist people. That is the reason why in the United States of America, the white population is still at 66%. Just remember that. But send me your source and I will cover it. But ultimately, no, you're right. They even tried to add a Mexican box way back, but Lulac and other Mexicans wanted to still be able to identify as white. Yes. So the reality is when I talk about this concept, I'm talking to a broader white, non-Hispanic white, just straight white, anglicized or Irish or fucking Italian, Greek, Polish, Slav white population. I am covering it from the perspective of the federal government, and I'm also covering it with the understanding that I have of that basically describes why Latino populations vote in the way that they do in certain areas. Okay? Because if you think that when we talk about black and brown people in particular, okay, when we talk about black and brown people in particular, you will be very confused if you're a white guy when you find out that the majority of the Customs and Border Patrol is Latino. Like you go, what the fuck? How is that possible? Because a lot of Latino people have been brought into the concept of whiteness and find themselves to be in the in-group of whites. Hold on one second. So, where is it? Where does this information come from? U.S. Hispanic population reached nearly 64 million in 2022. The Census Bureau estimates that there are roughly 63.7 million Hispanics in the U.S. as of 2022. They make up 19% of the nation's population. The U.S. Census Bureau and determination of who's Hispanic. Wait, hold on. I have to go grab Kaya real quick. But in the eyes of the Census Bureau, Hispanics can be of any race because Hispanic is an ethnicity and not a race. However, this distinction is subject to debate. A 2015 Center study found that 17% of Hispanic adults said being Hispanic is mainly a matter of race, while 29% said it's mainly a matter of ancestry. 42 said culture. Where is the 60+% number that I'm looking for here? Wait, hold on. I think I saw something here. Another center found that 53% of Hispanics prefer to describe themselves as Hispanic, 26% prefer Latino, 2% prefer. Oh yeah, this is the Latinx one. Where is the white part? There is like a part in this survey that says that Latinx is a silly little designation. Grown and multicultural Hispanics comes from primarily those who identify as white and some other race. The population grew from 1.6 million. The number of Hispanics who identify as white and no other race declined from 26.7 million to 10 million. Oh, shit. I got to fucking bring Kaya in. Hold on. She's barking outside. All right, let's keep going with Feinstein.
Women in
then we'll
politics,
talk about the Latin,
no longer an
the
unusual
Latino
thing. But back when I was young, it was quite unusual, and she broke ground.
In 1969, she became the first woman to be elected to the San Francisco Board of Supervisors. But throughout, she was always a little bit too conservative, I think, for the overall electorate in San Francisco.
She was very proper. She believed in civility. She believed in decorum. You know, I think she just planted herself right in the middle and stayed there for what would turn out to be her entire career.
She ran a couple of times for mayor, was defeated a couple of times, and in the late 1970s, she had pretty much decided she wasn't going to run for mayor.
She literally fucking destroyed the backyard, like absolutely destroyed the flower plants in the backyard, and then barked a bunch, and then opened the fucking doors by herself. I do not even know how she did that. Okay? This is the second time she's done this today. She now knows if I don't lock the door, okay? If I do not lock the actual, like, the massive fucking window panel doors, which I have a hard time opening because they're so heavy, she knows how, I don't know how she's able to do so, but she knows how to open the fucking doors. Okay? In my living room, I have window doors, and they're very heavy window panel doors. And I have no fucking idea how she is able to literally open it. Like, I guess she has like a little bit of a crevice in between if it's not locked that she can like shove her nose through and like leans into it and then opens the fucking door. Why are you anti-independent women? I mean, Kaya, not Dianne. Yeah. Sliding glass doors. They're so heavy that it's hard to open as a human being. Okay? Asshole. I don't know how she does it. They push the glass with their paws. They jab at it. At least that's how my dog does it. I don't know how. Here's the article on happening, dude? Oh my God, dude. Fucking Christ, dude. What a fucking active day today. Jesus Christ. Shit. Yeah, here. As of 2019, 58.5 million or 18% of Americans identified themselves as ethnically Hispanic or Latino. Of those, 38.3 million or 65.5%, 11.8% of the total U.S. population also self-identified as white. That's where the fucking 70% comes from. Okay, that's where the 70% number comes from, for the record. It is from the, I guess, is it the U.S. Economic Development? No. Or no, it's the American Community Survey from the United States Census Bureau. That number has remained a constant in the census in general, and I think that's where that's where the stat that I am responding to comes from. It is a lack of availability in the census, certainly, but what you also have to understand, and this is important for people to understand, that is by design. That is what the American government is doing deliberately in an attempt to keep the white population percentage high, seemingly. But the political consequences of that are that Hispanic people are considered white in the eyes of the government, and also culturally, in many instances, considered white as well, which is the reason why you see Hispanic people vote a certain way. When you look at like Latino people in Texas, for example. Okay? The man from the ether, thank you for the 10 gifted subs. Like, this didn't come out of my asshole, is what I mean. Like, the numbers are not coming from my asshole. But it's just as you said, it's because it's pushed and so forced internally. It's frustrating, like so many of us would much rather. I understand that. But for older Latino populations, especially, older Hispanic populations especially, it also shows where it's coming from, like where this attitude comes from. Or rather, like it's a self-recognition that you are it's a self-recognition that you are a part of the in-group, the dominant in-group in that regard. That's where the racial conflict comes from. That's where I mean, no group is a monolith, obviously, but that's where like this kind of stuff happens over time. Just like the Irish were included in whiteness, just like the Polish were included in whiteness. This is something I've talked about quite a bit, that Latino, Hispanic populations in America are also now firmly inside of the whiteness category. And as a first generation, second generation Latino citizen in the United States of America, you are, of course, always going to have some internal struggles with that identity. But there is a political purpose behind it. Okay, there's a political purpose behind it, and that is so that Latino voters also feel as though they have a dog in the fight, a stake in the game, and then will go and vote for reactionary fucking concepts that portray others as though they are in the out group. That's why you have so much anti-immigration sentiment coming from more reactionary Latino core voters, especially in border states as well. On the other hand, though, you have younger Latino voters who are, of course, overwhelmingly on the left. Basically translating to you're part of the in-group power structure now, that kind of mindset. Exactly. Okay? That's where that comes from. It's very interesting. This is so interesting to me. As an Asian man, I always thought the rich Asians would be the next ethnicity to be accepted in the white class. Asians are categorized in a separate way where they are already in like they're not white, but they're white adjacent. Asians are considered to be like the model minority under a white supremacist lens, and therefore, despite the fact that they are not considered white, the legislation surrounding them are in a similar. It's written in a similar way. So that's a specific that's a different group. So what's really interesting about this concept, however, is that the model minority Asian group is actually very diverse, and obviously the model minority myth is like a white supremacist one, but it's a very diverse group of people. So whenever you talk about Asian people in general, you rarely are ever talking about Cambodian people. You're rarely ever talking about Vietnamese people. You're rarely ever talking about Laotian people. You're not talking about Indonesian people. You're talking about Chinese people or Japanese people or Korean people, right? So yeah, you're not talking about Thai people or Filipino people in general, sometimes Filipino people as well. So like these different groups have very different experiences, and they come from very different financial circumstances, and cannot be grouped under the same umbrella. Murat? Not bad. So that is why I always say everyone will be able to become white except black people. Exactly. Really? You think she got bigger? Fucked up the backyard and opened the door on her own and then ran in here. Just like the flowers. She did gardening. She loves doing gardening. I mean, yeah, I don't disagree with you. It's just frustrating because we ain't. Even if I'm white, I did not grow up the same way as my white friends, even if we grew up as broke. But it all depends on what city you grew up in, too. I know that. Of course, I was in Mexico. I would be 100% white, but here, like, nah, man, nor do I think this shit's stupid. Yeah. But the reason why I wanted to dive into this a little bit further is because, like, there's, I don't want people to be confused by this. Like, I'm not just, like, making up the statistic that fucking 70%, almost 70% of Latino voters are self-identified as white. And that is important. That doesn't mean that, like, all of you guys in here are saying like, oh no, I'm white, and or that you get the benefits of like full-blown white people. It's just that the concept of Hispanic whites is one that was meticulously crafted so that Latino people could inevitably become a part of the in-group. You just happen to be experiencing it. You know what I mean? Arabs is another one. Yeah, there's no meta distinction. Like, there isn't. We're white. I'm white. Like, I grew up in the continent of Asia. I'm Muslim and I'm white, full blown, you know? Arabs are white, not at the airport, but everywhere else on the census. Yes. The only people who will never be white are black people, as I've said time and time again. Because whiteness is designed around what it's not. Okay? And what it's not is black. Whiteness is purity. It's supposed to signal purity. It is created and crafted around the boundaries and proximity to blackness. Okay? Anyway, let's keep going. In 1982, the Board of Supervisors passed the measure authored by Britt authorizing city health and other benefits of domestic partners of unmarried public employees, which primarily affected gay people. Under heavy pressure to veto the bill from religious leaders, Feinstein agonized finally against the unanimous advice of City Hall councilors. She killed it. Once again, the Castro district bloomed with Dump Dianne posters. Worst backlash to the veto fueled a once lagging recall campaign launched by a fringe group called the White Panthers that was mad about her push for gun control. The moribund effort suddenly qualified for the ballot. However, she quickly framed the recall as a referendum on the rogue White Panthers, winning big and ensuring her easy re-election a few months later. Feinstein would later express regret for the controversial veto, but many gay political organizations did not forget and highlighted still in assessment of her record. I wonder, Politico, are you living in that era? Are you Dianne Feinstein? Did Dianne Feinstein write this article? Like, we're not living in that time frame, you know? Like, you can't be so, they wrote this as though they are, like, angry at the gay organizations. Britt, who finished a close second in the 1987 special congressional election that sent Nancy Pelosi to Washington, later recalled meeting with Feinstein about the legislation. She told me she was very sympathetic, but she didn't want to blaze any trails. Britt told me several years before his death in 2020, she said, "Harry, I understand it's a personal thing, but I'm mayor of all the people, and it really was a morality thing with her." Anyway. Jubilee made this just for you, Abby. Reacts for later. Wait, what did they do? Okay, so, this is important to understand Dianne Feinstein's trailblazing status.
Again, she in fact had told the press she wouldn't.
I got up early on November 27th, 1978. Someone yelled at me out of a bus window that the mayor had been shot. And I grabbed a taxi and got to City Hall. As I came around the corner, Dianne Feinstein was rushing past me with this look of horror on her face.
As president of the Board of Supervisors, it's my duty to make this announcement. Both Mayor Moscone and Supervisor Harvey Milk have been shot and killed.
Both Harvey Milk and George Moscone, who were extraordinarily charismatic, progressive leaders, lost their lives that day, and Dianne Feinstein automatically became mayor of San Francisco.
Her demeanor,
wonderful political career starting point,
her calm, her composure was really exactly what San Francisco needed. She is elected mayor for 9 years.
As a young gay kid in San Francisco, I think one of my first real memories is of hearing that she was going to meet with these gay political organizations that at that point were brand new. And she...
For the record, this is why organizing matters, but understand that they were being built at the time, but it's not like they were an insignificant force in San Francisco politics, okay? So she did not do this due to her moral considerations. As a matter of fact, every step of the way, she was against, it was done against her better judgment or her own personal morality. It was more so that she was pushed into it. And in every single circumstance where she got any kind of pushback from the other side on anti-gay, anytime she got anti-gay pressure, she met their demands.
Actively courted our vote.
And now a real crisis for San Francisco. It was big news here this morning. The AIDS epidemic, said the headlines, is spreading so rapidly that it threatens to overwhelm San Francisco's financial ability to deal with it.
Now, there was a lot of hateful political rhetoric. A lot of people were very happy about this pandemic. There was a bumper sticker. It said, AIDS, it's killing all the right people. Dianne, from the beginning, responded with compassion.
Once again, people thought that was kind of the end of the road for her. She runs for governor in 1990 and loses. But 2 years later, after we have Anita Hill confronting Clarence Thomas at his confirmation
No, I don't
hearings,
like Dianne Feinstein.
the country
I think
is
she's
suddenly seized by...
I don't like Dianne Feinstein. I think that she had, she had some decent takes and demonstrated political courage from time to time, but in many instances, she was like a classic middle of the ground Democratic Party operative who who would be fine to be that way if she was like in Kansas or something, okay? But in California, I think that that is ridiculous. She was not a I wouldn't consider her to be like a trailblazer. A person early on said that she positions herself center and there she stayed. No, that actually isn't even full-blown true either, because I think that she positioned herself as a central, like a centrist figure, and then she kind of became that figure that was locked in place, which became, in my opinion, anti-progressive 20, 30 years down the line.
By what becomes known as the Year of the Woman. And a whole lot of women stepped up for public office, and especially in the Senate. So all of a sudden, Dianne Feinstein is there in the Senate and really as the vanguard of a group of women who would really change the culture of the place.
History will judge us by our commitment to a just society governed by law and the willingness to face an ugly truth and say never again.
I think she came into the Senate and continued to have more of an executive temperament than a legislative one.
You know what's interesting?
This part is also obviously the cream, I think, like the funniest moment of Dianne Feinstein. Well, this is the funniest moment. Dianne Feinstein revealed key evidence about the Night Stalker before he was caught. But that's actually kind of funny. But this also is like more demonstrative of how she operates, or operated in more recent years.
About this group is I've been doing this for 30 years. I know what I'm doing. You come in here and you say it has to be my way or the highway.
Like, these are children. She's talking to fucking children.
Go in and share this letter.
Here, let's watch the full video.
Together. Yeah. Share it in front of Feinstein. We're asking her to vote yes on the Green New Deal.
We are trying to ask you to vote yes on the Green New Deal.
Please.
Okay, I'll tell you what. We have our own Green New Deal.
Some scientists have said that we have 12 years to turn this around.
Well, it's not going to get turned around in 10 years. What we can do,
Senator, if
is
this
put
doesn't get turned
ourselves-
around in 10 years, you're looking at the faces of the people who are going to be living with these consequences.
The government is supposed to be for the people and by the people and all
You know
for the
what's
people.
interesting about this group is I've been doing this for 30 years. I know what I'm doing. You come in here and you say it has to be my way or the...
Yeah? Well, guess what? Those kids know one thing, okay? They know how to live and breathe and be alive, okay? You, on the other hand, don't. So, you know, that's my perspective on Dianne Feinstein being so fucking callous and so awful to a bunch of children who are like, hey, we're kind of scared about our future. Could you please do something? You're a fucking California senator. Dianne Feinstein be like, I love fossil fuels because I am a fossil fuel myself. So how could I stand against fossil fuels when I am a fossil?
The highway. I don't respond to that. I've gotten elected the highway. You come in here and you say it has to be my way or the highway. I don't respond to that. I've gotten elected. I just ran. I was elected by almost 1 million vote plurality.
Yeah, remember when she got elected again? When she was already like donezo, okay? Lights were fucking out. They were blinking. This is a moment where she had clarity, which is kind of funny to think about because like a moment where she has clarity is when she's dunking on like child protesters, okay? Like so incredibly hostile for no particular reason. Like she's not even being like, oh sweetie, I'll do my best. Like she's just like, no, you're fucking dumb. Shut the fuck up, you dumbass child. Shut your stupid bitch ass up.
And I know what I'm doing. So, maybe people should listen a little bit.
I hear what you're saying, but we're the people who voted you. You're supposed to listen.
This part is the best. He's like, no, you're not.
To us. That's your,
How old are
your
you?
job.
How old
I'm
are you?
16. I
Well,
can't
you didn't vote for me.
Well, I'm
By the way, this is the exact kind of like shitty, annoying indifference that like you would expect from the r/neoliberalism defenders. You know what I mean? Like people that go, oh well, technically I hate when children are used as political props, and also Dianne did a really good job here by owning them. You know what I mean? What the goat?
It doesn't matter. We're the ones who's going to be impacted.
Something.
It doesn't matter. We're going to be the ones who are impacted.
Right? Shut up! You can't even roll your R's yet.
I understand that. I have 7 grandchildren. I understand it very well.
Senator, the cost of not taking this action is far higher than the cost of what the Green New Deal will be. And there is enormous popularity for this bill around the whole country. And we're asking you to be brave and do this for us and for your grandchildren.
Get enough for everyone. I'm trying to do the best I can, which was to write a responsible resolution.
Any plan that doesn't take bold, transformative action is not going to be what we need.
Well,
I'm quote tweeting this. I'm gonna say, hold on. I'm saying those kids lost the debate, in parentheses battle, but won the war. Genuinely sorry, really wasn't trying to stun like with the Hispanics that don't speak Spanish aren't Latino. Gracias, big guy. Yeah, I mean, that's a ridiculous thing to say in America anyway, but. All right. All right. Let's keep going. We move past it. The Dianne glaze up continues right now.
I don't respond to that.
One can criticize her on any number of issues, as I have, but her commitment to gun control and her extraordinary efforts on that issue over many, many years goes back, I know, to that horrible day in City Hall where we both witnessed firsthand what those guns can do.
The time has come to take these weapons of war off our streets. I urge my colleagues to stand tall and support this amendment.
New details this morning about Senator Dianne Feinstein's recovery from shingles. Her office sharing the 89-year-old was also dealing with a number of previously undisclosed complications. The Senate's oldest member, Feinstein, returned to the Senate just last week after missing 91 votes in a 3-month span.
It was hard not to notice in some of her public comments that sometimes she did not seem to be as on top of things as she had been before.
It funds priorities submitted. Yeah, just say aye. Okay, just aye.
It's been painful for me to see the decline because I remember her as being so incisive, so smart. She read every word of every report. She wasn't a cardboard cutout propped up by some staffers. She knew what she was doing, and she knew what she was talking about.
It really has been a sort of sad and messy and to a very
No, it's one that she deserved. Like, straight up. I mean, if she did not run for re-election last time around, she still would have had like a legacy that could be preserved, I think. A legacy that was not tarnished by her own audacity, by her own narcissism, It's not like she needed to fucking be in office. It's not like she was in a particularly unsafe seat and she was the only person with the political chops to keep winning that seat over and over again. It's that she wanted to continue doing this shit, okay? Partially, I think the Democratic Party wanted her to keep being a warm ass on a seat until it turned cold, of course, as well. Does she make more money by staying in office? Brother, she's already like almost a billionaire. Her and her husband made fucking almost $1 billion in stocks, okay? In stonks. I know Trump is in my state. I know. He's in Anaheim right now.
Distinguished political career, one in which she has been a path breaker.
And for the record, for you saying like, so why bother running? Hubris, that's it. In some instances, this is complicated. It's a complicated math equation. In others, it's super basic, right? Like top of the hour, there's an ad break. That's 3 minutes long. Sometimes it comes 24 minutes into the top of the hour because I forgot to run it. Okay? Super basic math equation. $5 allows you to avoid those ads and no longer see them. You can also get gifted a sub if you're lucky. You can also send me links when you become a subscriber. Like there's some benefits to it, right? It's pretty simple stuff. Here's the 3-minute ad break now. Feinstein's husband and Paul Pelosi own a real estate company. They're just great investors, man. It's awesome, and they're buddies. Dianne Feinstein was also under legal guardianship by Nancy Pelosi's daughter. Sakura Gore, thank you for the 10 gifted subs. She literally voted yesterday morning. That's the grind set. Yeah, she died doing what she loves. Lolo had a really good tweet on it. I retweeted it. You know, the fuck was it? Dianne Feinstein quite literally died doing what she loved, being incapable of comprehending what was happening around her while holding one of the most powerful positions in American government. You know? Oh, for cute. Thank you for the 5 gifted subs as well. Yeah. She went out. She went out. She fulfilled her role. And she fucking died. Here's a really good Scott Ritter take. He's a former UN weapons inspector, former USMC intelligence officer. Scott Ritter says, I met Senator Dianne Feinstein once in the lead up to the 2003 invasion of Iraq. She had just recently been assigned to the Senate Select Committee on Intelligence in 2001. And it was in that capacity that she had a senior staffer from the committee ask me to come to Washington, D.C. to brief her on Iraqi WMDs and the allegations being made by the Bush administration that Iraq continued to possess them. We met at a secure conference room in the Capitol building, me, the senator, and half a dozen staffers and aides. It was polite, professional affair, with the senator asking questions and taking notes. Eventually, she confronted me, said, your position is causing us some difficulty. You are making the U.S. look bad in the eyes of the world. I replied that my analysis and the underlying facts were solid, something she agreed with. I said that while I knew she couldn't reveal sensitive intelligence, this is like him saying Iraq does not have WMDs in possession as a UN weapons inspector. Okay? So just understand that. That's what she's saying is like, while your analysis is sound and I believe you, you're making us look bad. Okay? Limafeo, Scott Ritter is also a convicted pedophile and pushes you super hard. Bitch, what the fuck? Like, dude, none of that factors into him being right in that regard, okay? Like, you understand that, right? Like, I never said he's a good guy. It kind of does. So what? Then I'm sorry. Him being a convicted pedophile doesn't change the reality that Iraq didn't have WMDs. Dianne Feinstein is not talking to him about, the arbitrary nature of age of consent laws or some shit, okay? Like, She's talking to him about specifically one thing that we all know in the 2023 year of our holy fucking Lord. Hassan using pedophiles and pro-Putin apologists to defend his point. Oh my God, I'm going to fucking die. Guys, Chatter really just said that Iraq had WMDs because Scott is a bad person. Yeah, it's fucking awesome, dude. You guys were like ready to fire this one up. You're causing us some difficulty. You're making our community look bad in the eyes of the world. This is psychotic. That's insane. This conversation is happening specifically on one issue and one issue only. Okay? Iraq's WMDs that like people perfectly understood was not real. Okay? Iraq's possession of WMDs, talking to a person who is supposed to be knowledgeable on the matter, who was right. You know what he wasn't right on? Pedophilia, okay? Obviously. Or whatever the fuck you're saying he does about pushing Z. I don't know. I don't know what he has done in recent years, okay? But in this circumstance, increasingly common Hassan L. Just take the L and move on. I can't believe the shit people type in chat. Wait, what? Increasingly common Hassan L. I'm pretty sure some non-pedophile people made the same point while not being pedophiles. I know. I understand that. Why are you more mad at me for bringing this up than Dianne Feinstein, who's talking to a fucking pedophile at that point? Like, go take it up with her. Oh, wait, you can't because she's fucking dead, okay? Obviously, he was right about WMDs. He's legitimately Alex Jones level source. Okay. It doesn't matter. Okay? It doesn't matter who this person is. It doesn't matter what his background is. He was right about the fucking WMDs not being in possession of Iraq, in Iraqi hands. And what matters is Dianne Feinstein called him up as the fucking person. Okay? As the person to talk to, and then followed through and still ended up voting for the resolution of authorizing the war in Iraq. That's the point. I will forever know that Senator Feinstein is someone who had been empowered by the truth and lacked the moral courage to act on it. The blood of thousands of Americans and hundreds of thousands of Iraqis stains their soul. Okay? I can't believe you're having to explain yourself to dumbass chatters. No, I mean, I get it. It's like, it's a funny thing to point out. Like, I agree. It's, this is being a ridiculous person. Doesn't matter, though, in that point in time. He had, actionable intelligence and better analysis that many other non-pedophile people also retained. You know what I mean? Like, unless you are currently operating under the assumption that, like, no, the yellow cake, uranium enrichment, and also WMDs were real and the Iraq war was justified, this doesn't matter because they're not talking about pedophilia. These people aren't trying to make valid points. They're just trying to harass you. Yeah, it's fucking nuts, though. Anyway. Oh, this was the other side, the Confederate flag situation, which, of course, if you look into it, it's more complicated than simply propping up a Confederate flag. But yes, Dianne Feinstein did, as the mayor of San Francisco, propped up the Confederate flag alongside other flags as well. And they took it down. The Spartacus students, the MLs at the time, took it down in a demonstration. Richard Bradley, the famous person who did this, wearing a Union garb, and yet, it was propped up again.
Black and white pictures would resurface 37 years later. It shows him climbing a flagpole with the end result of taking down the Confederate flag. Full disclosure, it was one of 18 flags in.
Do you ever just want to call it quits on all this? Dealing with the trolls and insane people must be incredibly tasking. Yeah. I'm so sorry, man. I didn't mean to start a whole discourse. I just thought you may want to consider the source. Scott is one of Putin's strongest soldiers in the pro-Russian info space. I mean, dude, these motherfuckers think I'm one of Putin's strongest soldiers. I don't know about his fucking pushing Z narrative. Obviously, I dunk on people who push Z all the goddamn time. Not that you would ever know about that if you are one of those people who comes in here and thinks I'm like pro-Vladimir Putin. And none of the things that he has said thus far have any relevance to the conversation of Dianne Feinstein calling him up to have a meeting about whether or not Iraq had WMDs. He's not the only person who was fully aware that Iraq did not possess WMDs. There's plenty of other people as well. It's just that he's the one who was called up to have a conversation with Dianne Feinstein. So unless you're saying Dianne Feinstein actually did not have a conversation with Scott Ritter at the time about WMDs, in which case I will side with you, considering that he has lied about other shit. Okay. The information or the conversation that took place, whether or not it happened, I do not know. Okay. I'm not 100% certain that the conversation happened. It doesn't matter though, because there's plenty of other fucking people that were fully aware and were openly stating that Iraq did not have WMDs at the time. And Feinstein still chose to avoid all of that and go along with the narrative that maybe it does, or rather didn't give a shit and still authorize the invasion of Iraq. That's it.
Front of City Hall used to symbolize the different stages of American history. After Bradley took the flag down, then Mayor Dianne Feinstein ordered the Confederate flag be flown again. She eventually changed her mind. Because of what he did, at least one school board member is hinting that perhaps a school be named after him. Who is Richard Bradley? I asked on TV. If Mr. Bradley is out there, please reach out to me. I'd love to talk to you about what you have done here in San Francisco. He called us. Hi, Mr. Bradley. Thank you for joining us.
Bro, I love local news, man. It's fucking dope.
You now live in South Carolina. You're 70 years old. And you just told me that you would climb any pole again at your age if it meant taking down the Confederate flag.
Yes, I will.
And tell me about that flag. I mean, what does it represent?
The ugliness in the world that we live in.
Let me get to the point here. Should the name Dianne Feinstein be removed from that school because she ordered the flag to be replaced even after you took it down not once, but 3 times?
She certainly should have a name removed from that school. She does not represent what makes the people happy and what's good in this world we live in, or in San Francisco.
Yet the flag was there when George Moscone was mayor of San Francisco before Feinstein. He did not take it down, yet there is a school named after him, and the board is not removing his name. Bradley says Moscone's name should also be taken down.
Certainly. There's no doubt about that.
One of the board members suggested that perhaps we name a school after you, Mr. Bradley. Do you think you're worthy of having a school named after you?
I certainly do. I believe in helping the kids and having the kids have something to look up to that they can represent, and the kids will be happy.
And any words for the school board?
We have to keep students in this country we live in looking forward and looking at what represents them and what's good for America.
Thank you, Mr. Bradley, for reaching out to me.
And thank you very much.
There it is. So there was that little saga as well. Full disclosure, like they said, It was a bunch of different flags, but I think that considering the length of the Confederacy and its impact on American history, I do not believe that it should be waved as a flag, considering that it's a flag of hatred, let alone somewhere like fucking California, okay? Somewhere like San Francisco. Bullshit.
Chad Pergram, congressional correspondent over on Capitol Hill, to sort of pick up where Brett left off. Chad, you know better than anyone that there is already, a jump ball on who may succeed Senator Feinstein. You have at least 3 House lawmakers already in a competitive contest. Lay out for us sort of where things are headed, what
Brett
that
Alex,
race looks
like,
and also if Newsom, the governor there, has sort of indicated that he has any favorites on who he might nominate to succeed her.
Yeah, this is the thing to look at here, is just how fast Gavin Newsom might appoint somebody. Again, under some other circumstances, you might think it might come really, really fast because the Senate is probably going to be in session this weekend. They're trying to avoid a government shutdown. But on the Senate bill, they have the votes to clear a filibuster and pass the bill that's before the Senate right now. And so it's not like they need her vote necessarily. This is not, at least the way things are arranged right now, down to the razor's edge. So we don't know just how fast he could make that appointment. But again, this really raised a lot of hackles here with Barbara Lee, the Democratic representative from California, who's been in office since the early 1990s, the mid-1990s, saying that you said, Governor, that you were going to appoint a black woman. Here I am, a senior black woman who's a member of the Congressional Black Caucus. I served as the chair of the Congressional Black Caucus, Barbara Lee. Why aren't you appointing me? And Barbara Lee just a few weeks ago thought that she had kind of been sidelined in this process a little bit. Now, of course, that would probably give Barbara Lee a leg up running against Katie Porter and also Adam Schiff, who's the favorite among many, California Democrats, and certainly the favorite of the former House Speaker Nancy Pelosi to take that seat. So we don't know exactly who he might appoint. And again, the quickness, is this something that's going to come right away so they can vote maybe as early as tomorrow on trying to, keep the government open, or if we get into a government shutdown and some other legislative solution materializes and it's a razor wire vote and they need that vote. So we just don't know that yet, Jackie.
Speaking of how important, her vote is, the margins, the way that they are, you talk all the time about how important the math is. I mean, it is going to be more difficult today to get to 60 votes on anything because Senator Feinstein is not there today, and it'll take some time for
That's right.
For the governor to replace her. How does that impact? This is happening at a very heightened tension moment where you're trying to fund the government that expires tomorrow night at midnight. How does that impact things?
It's a precarious situation, but not as precarious as you might think because of the reasons I just stated. They had about 3/4 of the Senate, 77 members voted on a test vote on this bill on Tuesday. Not quite as many on a test vote later in the day yesterday. So they'll be able to get cloture, as they call it. That's the term of art here on Capitol Hill, to overcome a filibuster on that. That vote will come tomorrow on the Senate's interim spending bill, but on something later on, maybe they need that because, again, if you have a narrow Senate, and also, if you are the Senate Majority Leader, Chuck Schumer, you want as many Democrats there as possible. And it is about the math because we learned just yesterday that Debbie Stabenow, the Democratic senator from Michigan who is retiring, has COVID and announced that she would be out for a few days. And so something like that, these real world.
How likely do you think it is for Newsom to appoint someone that is even a little bit more progressive? There's a couple different planks of power inside of the Democratic Party. And in prior years, it was like the Obama camp, which is separate from the Clinton camp, right? And I think that it's a little bit more divided now. You got the Pelosi heads, which Feinstein is like part of that. And then you have Gavin Newsom also trying to make like a little bit more. I don't know where I would place Gavin Newsom under. Bernie camp is obviously ours. It's different. But inside of the Pelosi fandom, Dianne Feinstein existed inside of that machine. Okay. Reed machine remnants. Yeah. And I don't know where Newsom goes with this. Like, I don't know if he's like trying to make a name for himself to like differentiate himself in some ways from the rest of the from the different camps, because I do see him pop off more frequently. So maybe. But I don't know. I don't know who he's going to appoint to this position. Not everyone's in a camp, especially governors. Yeah, governors are usually standalone, except when you're talking about California machine politics is like is firmly it's one of the headquarters of the Democratic Party, right? Similar to New York. And obviously, one of the worst reasons as to why these places are firmly conservative, like in many respects. I thought the headquarters of the Dems was Beijing. Hell yeah, Beijing Brandon, baby. So before we dive into the House GOP first impeachment inquiry, which has been a fucking massive failure, let's finish off the Dianne Feinstein saga with how, when she was the mayor, when the Night Stalker Richard Ramirez was wreaking havoc in California, she publicly revealed key evidence. Though Richard Ramirez originally terrorized the greater Los Angeles area in the 80s, a new audience is now getting to see the extent of his depravity in a 4-part series, Night Stalker. Ramirez used a range of weapons to burglarize, rape, torture, and oftentimes murder his victims. After years of investigations, he was ultimately apprehended in 1985. He died from cancer in 2013 while awaiting his execution. Before he was caught, Ramirez left behind shoe prints from the same sneakers, calling cards, and other pieces of evidence at many of his crime scenes. Plus, survivors were also able to narrow down his appearance and help investigators. But there was one impediment that many think slowed down the search. It came from the then mayor of San Francisco, Dianne Feinstein. In a press conference, she jeopardized the Night Stalker investigation. While most of the crimes took place in the greater Los Angeles area, he veered from his normal zone in one notable occasion. On August of 1985, he shot and killed 66-year-old accountant Peter Pan in his San Francisco home. He assaulted and beat Peter Pan's wife, Barbara Pan. She did survive and later gave police information about the assailant's appearance. Certain aspects of the crime scene, including a drawing of a pentagram, convinced the authorities the killer was also behind many of the most gruesome crimes in Southern California. Before that was shared publicly, investigators asked the then mayor of San Francisco, Dianne Feinstein, who served from 1978 to 1988, to authorize a reward for information about the Pan intruder. While announcing a $10,000 reward at a press conference, Feinstein revealed information about the case that had never been made public before. He's someone that will go home at night and will kill. It's a very serious situation. There's a $10,000 reward for any information which can lead to his arrest and conviction, she said. Her next statement would haunt some of the people actively working on the case. Ballistics on the weapon that killed both Mr. and Mrs. Pan out on eucalyptus over the weekend are the same ballistics on, I understand, more than a dozen murders committed in Southern California, she added. Prior to this press conference, members of the public were not aware that the murders had been linked together via shoe prints and ballistics. They also didn't know any information about the vehicle or the shoes. Detective Frank Salerno, who worked on the investigation, explained why the mayor's actions negatively impacted the case. She vomited all the really important information to the public, he recalled in Night Stalker. She gave up the fact that we had connected these cases with a shoe print with firearms evidence. The former mayor revealed aspects of the case that only the killer would have known. It therefore made it more difficult when interrogating suspects. I mean, we were pissed, absolutely livid, the detective shared about the aftermath of the mayor's news meeting. So, you know, one additional fun way that Dianne Feinstein's legacy continues is when she fucked up or at least like undermined the Night Stalker investigation. Anyway. Donald Trump is currently in. Oh fuck yeah, he's in my hood right now. He's in my backyard.